Hi, and welcome back to Pay Down Debt Solutions. I'm Jen, and you are watching Pay Down Debt Solutions channel. And on this channel, we teach a style of banking called velocity banking. Velocity banking is very near and very dear to my heart and to my husband Dan's heart because it got us out of a lot of debt in a very short period of time. And today, I want to talk to you guys about how we did it, okay? How we did it and how velocity banking changed our life, because I know that it can change your life too. So, what is velocity banking and who does velocity banking work for? These are the questions that I'm going to answer today for you. Today was a rough day for us because we went to a funeral. Life is too short to live in debt. Life is too short to not enjoy every single second that we have on this earth. And I don't want to see any of you stressed and strangled by debt any longer. It is time to set yourself free, and you can do it. You can do it with nothing more than a credit card. And everybody says credit cards are these awful debt tools, right? Well, they're not. They're these wonderful tools that will help us get out of debt if you learn how to run them and run them the correct way, the way that they should have been run from day one. You guys have grown up, such as I've grown up in the traditional banking experience, right? So money goes into a checking account, we pay all of our bills out of that checking account, and we hope that at the end of the day, we have something left over for us to save, right? And most of the time, that's not the case. So what makes us qualified to talk to you about this is, number one, Dan and I experienced a heavy load of debt for a long period of time. We are business owners, and a lot of times business owners, we spend a lot of money, we make a lot of money, but we have debt, okay? And so there's all this debt out there that we have to take care of. And so that ended up happening to Dan and I. We had a bunch of businesses and we found ourselves in some debt. And we got to a point at one point where we actually consulted a bankruptcy attorney because we thought maybe we were going to have to file for bankruptcy. Well, guess what changed our life? Velocity banking changed our life. And credit cards, specifically credit cards, you guys, changed our life. Now, later on down the road, we did end up using a home equity line of credit. And I joke about it all the time because here we are talking about mortgages, right? I talk to you guys about mortgages all the time and how I don't like mortgages. Well, we were part of those out there, part of all of you out there that have refinanced, okay? So we refinanced our mortgage at one point, and at the time we refinanced our mortgage, they told us they were going to close out our home equity line. So we had this home equity line sitting there for years, okay? And we thought it was closed. We couldn't figure out why it was still reporting under our banking, but we didn't really think anything of it because we didn't use it, right? Obviously, we thought we couldn't. Well, it ended up turning out that was available to us, but not before we did some other things and used credit cards instead to help us get out of debt. So we are qualified because of that. And number two, because I was a banker and a branch manager for many years before I became a business owner. And so I know a lot about the tools that I'm bringing to you and discussing with you every day. All right. So let's get into velocity banking. And I want to teach you out there. I'm hoping I get some new people out there who have either heard of velocity banking and not tried it, or are just in debt up to their eyeballs, such as we were, and are looking for a way to change their trajectory, just like we were, right? Because you can do it. You don't need to file for bankruptcy. You don't need to go to these predatory loan repayment companies. You guys don't need to do that. All you need to do is have a credit card or a small line of credit or a large line of credit and use it to get yourself out of debt. All right, so why velocity banking will work for you? Why will it? It isn't if it will work for you, okay? It will work for you. And I know this because there isn't a single person that Dan and I have encountered up to this point that has not been able to use velocity banking. Now, there are some people that we haven't been able to help them get out of all of their debt. Actually, it was one individual at this point that we weren't able to help them get out of all their debt. There are other things that individual will have to do, but they can still do velocity banking to help them up to this point, okay? So this person will be able to do that. Now, everybody, there isn't a single person that can't do velocity banking unless you're underage and you can't get a credit card or your credit is so bad that you don't have access to a credit card. But then there's things that you can do, right, to eventually get yourself a credit card or a line of credit. You can put money up and secure it and use a credit card. So that's something that you can do with your bank to help you get to that point. So let's discuss velocity banking, and let's discuss who qualifies for velocity banking. Well, number one, anyone with a credit card qualifies for velocity banking. Number two, anyone with a line of credit will qualify for velocity banking. 3, anyone with a loan or a mortgage will qualify. Anyone in debt with any of the above and has a credit card, a line of credit, or can get one, okay? So here's the other thing, you guys. You do not need to pay people. You do not need to pay people thousands of dollars for specialized programs to get you out of debt. You can do it with what you have up here, maybe one of these, okay? Maybe one of these if you're like me and sometimes are mathematically challenged. And I joke about that. I did go through calculus, but I hated it. All right. So you need what's up here. That's it. That's all you need. And you need an amortization schedule to look at your credit cards and to project years out for yourself or months out for yourself so you know when to pull in debt. Okay. So there isn't anything else that you really need. Now, if you want somebody to work down a plan for you, as long as it doesn't cost you ridiculous amounts of money, absolutely, you guys do it. If it's in velocity banking style, right? Because there are plenty of people out there that teach velocity banking that can help you with this. So if you want, get a plan, go for it, man. Or do the teachings that we show you every day, okay? Learn from our channel, learn from other channels that teach velocity banking, because it really is very simple and you really can do it yourself, all right? I know that you can. So again, you guys don't need to pay thousands of dollars for any fancy software or programs to get yourself out of debt. All you need is your brain. That's it. It is that simple. It is very easy to do. All right. Velocity banking is very simple. Now, I propose that you do velocity banking through the pay down strategy because it's very simple. Now, do you have to come to us and do it? No, you don't. Like I said, you can go to any velocity banking channel. However, I think that our 3-step system is probably one of the easiest out there. It's very simple to follow. It's a very simple model. And all this is a model for you. Okay. So pay down is a model for you. Now, the number one thing that you're going to do, and this is unbelievably and incredibly important. When you guys are looking at your finances, the first thing you need to do, which is in our plan right here, number 1 step is to organize. You need to organize every single bill that you have. I want you to organize all of the money coming in. I want you to organize all of that money that's going out. And you need to know it down to the penny. You need to know every single subscription you have. You need to know everything you can think of, all of your expenses. You need to know what your gas is, what your groceries are. Okay. And this is just smart living, right? I'm not telling you to do anything different. I'm not telling you to go on a ridiculously tight budget. And actually, I don't believe in that because YOLO, we have one life to live and I want to see you live it, right? Now, you're going to know after you do this stage, right? This organized piece, you're going to know whether or not you need to curtail things and cut back, or you're going to know, I'm doing okay. I can live the way I'm living. We can live within this budget. We can be happy doing what we're doing and still velocity bank our way out of debt. And that is what most of you are going to find. Here's the other thing all of our students tell us, almost all of them, that as they're going through and organizing their bills, they're finding things they don't need and they can't believe they're paying for. Okay, so that's another thing. This is why organization is so important, right? Because you're going to find things that you're just going to cut right out of your budget that you don't need, that you're wasting money on. And then that's more money that's either going to go to work down debt or go do something fun with your family, because that's what this is all about. Remember, the funeral I went to today left of a woman I'm very close with without a single parent anymore. Okay. She has no more parents. And it is important to me that we spend time with our family because you never know what's around the corner. So organize everything you have, figure out what's coming in and what's going out, and you're going to be able to then budget, okay, or live within the budget that you have. Second step number 2 is you're going to identify your debt destroyer, which is the debt weapon you're going to use, either a credit card, a personal line of credit, a home equity line of credit, a business line of credit. I care not what line it is as long as it's a line, right? What debt destroyer, and then you're going to also figure out what your plan is. Now, when you figure out what your debt destroyer is, you're going to use that then to build your plan to move yourself forward into debt freedom. And we show that on this channel every single day. So if you guys want to figure it out and learn how to find out how to velocity bank yourself out, keep watching videos because we show you. I'm going to show you a situation today as well, a student scenario. So you're going to, number one, identify that debt destroyer. Then number two, you are going to figure out what plan it is, whether it's multiple cards that you're working down at the same time, or it's one line of credit that you're working down, or a line of credit and a 0% credit card. It could be a multitude of things. It could be the 𝐓𝐿 card that you're using, which I love, by the way. So it could be any one of these things, right? It could be any one. Now, the third step, the last step, the fun step is implementation, implementing the plan that you have laid out for yourself, okay, and for your family. So, well, number one, organize. Number two, identify that debt weapon, that debt destroyer, that debt tool, and the plan. And then number three, you are going to work down your plan. And when you do it right, it is going to look like this here, okay? And this is why velocity banking is so very powerful. So velocity banking is money in, so it's income into a line of credit and running all of your expenses out of that line of credit. When you do this, because of the average daily balance that all lines of credit are figured on, you are dropping your balance significantly on that debt destroyer, which is a card that has a balance on it, right? So you're dropping your balance significantly the moment your income goes into that line of credit. And when you drop your balance, you're paying less in interest, and that is a win-win for you. When you have an amortized loan, okay, you don't have this opportunity. So when you go into a bank and when you're ready to consolidate your debts and you go in there and you're really excited to talk to a banker because you're like, I'm doing this and I'm doing this today. You're going to sit down in their chair and the first thing that banker is going to tell you is, you want a loan, you want a consolidation loan. And you guys are going to say, no, thank you. I would like a line of credit. And they're going to say, why do you want a line of credit? Because your interest rates on those lines of credit are so much higher. And you're going to sit there and go, circus, right? It's a circus. And that's what they're going to do to you because they want you guys to get a loan because they think it's in your best interest because it has a lower rate. But we know, and you all know from watching this channel, that that is not what you want. You want a line of credit. So please do not let them talk you into, number one, a line of credit or a loan. Don't let them talk you into a loan. You want that line of credit. And number two, do not let them talk you into a refinance, a cash out refinance. Don't do either one of those, okay? It's the line of credit that you're going to win with. And I don't care what that interest rate is, that line of credit's going to win every day. And here's an example of exactly how that works, okay? So if I have, in this example, we're going to show an income and expenses of $3,000 and total expenses of $2,800. Now, this is a card that I'm actually pulling from here. Okay, so it's a $13,000 card. Here's the balance over here. It's at 20% interest rate. So I'm just taking this as an example. Okay, so the income that we're working with on this example here is $3,000. And the total expenses are $2,800. Okay, so their total expenses are $2,800, which leaves them with a positive cash flow, doesn't it, of $200. All right, so it's a positive cash flow. Now, they have a $13,000 card that they're working with, and they want to do something with this card. They want to pay it off faster. Well, who doesn't? We want to get out of debt as fast as we can, don't we? So they are going to, if they let this card term out, meaning if they pay the minimum payment of the $346 a month, it is going to term out in 5 years, and they are going to spend $7,570 to do so, which is a lot of money, right? That's pretty much half of what that card is, okay? Actually, it's more than half. Now, if they have rent, let's say they have rent, and their rent is $1,000, okay? Now, when we're working with lines of credit, okay, there are two different ways we work them. And so one of them is if you're working with credit cards, you need to hold out what we call non-chargeable expenses. So you can't put all of your income into a credit card because you have to hold out things that you cannot charge, okay? So that just makes sense. So if I can't charge my rent, right? If I can't charge my rent, I can't charge my car payment, I can't charge other credit card payments, then I have to hold those out into my checking account, okay? So I have to, and then I have to pay those through the checking account. So that is something that is very different when you're working with credit cards versus your other lines of credit, like your personal line of credit, your home equity line of credit, or your business line of credit, because nothing has to be held out of a line of credit. And the reason is this: lines of credit are connected to your checking account, okay? So the lines of credit can be connected to your checking account. So that means when you get paid, all of your income then goes into your checking account for about a second. Don't blink or you'll miss it. And it goes right into that line of credit, and it drops that line of credit balance, right? So it goes right into that line of credit, and it sits there until you're ready to pay whatever bills you're going to pay, until you're ready to buy gas, buy groceries, whatever. So it literally is going to pay for, that line of credit is going to pay for everything in your life up at this point when you're running it through a line of credit. When you do that, all of your income then goes to work for you. Nothing is held out. Nothing sits there unavailable to work. Okay, it all goes to work. Now, the credit cards still work beautifully. And I can tell you this because Dan and I did it, right? So I know credit cards work beautifully, but you're not able to put quite as much of your income in. So it's going to be a little bit less advantageous than a line of credit, okay? So let's continue to work our strategy here. So we've got $13,346 as our payment. Our rent is $1,000, okay? So now what we have to do is we have chargeable expenses and we have non-chargeable expenses. So our chargeable expenses are what we need to work with, because those are the expenses that we're going to work down, okay? And we then also have available income and total income, right? So this is our income, and then this is our available income. Well, just like the expenses, right? We have to hold out money from our income. We also have to hold out money from the expenses, right? So your chargeable expenses are your total expenses minus your non-chargeables, okay? So the things that are non-chargeable, all right? So that's how we're getting the $1,454. So if my total expenses is $2,800, I have to then subtract my rent out, right? Because it's non-chargeable. And I have to subtract out my $13,000 Amazon payment because that is non-chargeable. So that leaves me with $1,454 as the money, as my expenses that are chargeable, okay, that I can put on this card. And you're going to put every expense on your card that is chargeable. So just like the home equity line of credit, everything you can run on the home equity, you're running through the home equity. Everything that is chargeable, you are running through your credit card, okay? So everything, DTE, well, that's what we have in Detroit, right? So our energy, a cell phone bill, gas, groceries, you name it, you guys, anything chargeable, you're running through that card, okay? And so then similarly, like I said, the income, you're taking your income and you're subtracting off your non-chargeables. Well, in this case, we are using this card here, right? This card as our debt destroyer. So that debt destroyer then is going to be working for me and I'm going to be getting back that amount of money that I'm spending monthly on it. Well, what do you mean, Jen? What in the world does that mean? Okay, well, this is what I mean. So if I have $3,000 as my income and I know my rent is $1,000, I would typically be having to hold out the rent and hold out this credit card payment, right? Because it's income that is not available to me because I have to put it on something that is non-chargeable, right? So I have to hold it out in my checking account. But I don't have to hold this out anymore because this card here, all right? So this card here is what I'm using as my debt destroyer. And because I'm using it, because I'm putting all of my income that's available to me into that card, that payment of the $346 is in a sense coming back to me, which means I don't have to hold it out of my expenses anymore, right? Or my income anymore, because I am using it, right? So that is going to work down my balances. Now, why does that happen? When you put in your income into a card like that and the payment is satisfied, all right? Once you satisfy that payment, it comes back to you as cash flow to help you work down that card, okay? Now, there is also interest that's involved, okay? And the interest does come out of this payment. So that does have to be subtracted, but the remainder of it then goes to work for me and goes to work to help work down my balance, all right? So now I have an available income of $2,000, okay? I have chargeable expenses of $1,454, all right? So this is my debt freedom graph, right? So this is my graph that I'm going to show you. Now, when you work your expenses this way, first of all, I want to show you guys the pictorial view, and then we're going to work down this scenario right here. I'm going to erase the board and I'm going to actually do the work down for you so you can see how all of this is pulled together. Okay, so you're going to see that soon. Now, I start with 13,000. I put my income into this debt destroyer, right? My credit card that I'm using, I put it into my debt destroyer, and it then drops my balance, because remember, I'm putting in my available income of 2,000. It drops my income or my balance then down to 11,000. 3,000 minus 2,000, 11,000. Okay, so it drops it right away. But then I am making charges, right? I'm making charges on that card throughout the month. I'm doing that because I have things I have to pay for. I have to pay for my gas. I have to pay for my groceries. I have to pay for my bills, my cell phone bill. I don't know. What else do we pay for? Anything, any subscription that comes out, Netflix maybe comes out. I don't know, whatever you guys pay for, right? Okay, so when I do that, then my balance comes back up to $12,654. Now, did it come back up to 13,000? It did not. Did it when it came back up, when I bought all of my things that I'm going to buy and paid for my bills that I'm going to pay for it, did it exceed the 13,000? No, it did not, right? It is at 12,654. So I have paid down this card, okay? Now, the next month comes in, right? And this shows you your interest. So I've got $200 in interest when I do this, okay? So $200 is my interest payment. Now, and by the way, the card is at 20%, so you can see that there. So next month comes in, right? So I'm starting at $12,654. I put my $2,000 worth of income in, drops me to $10,654, right? $2,000 less. And then throughout the month, I'm going to be charging the chargeable expenses, and it's going to work its way back up. And it works its way back up to 12,302. Now, is 12,302 greater or less than 12,654? Well, it's less than. So I have now paid down again by that differential, right? The 346 minus the interest, if you want to look at it that way. So that money then goes to work for me inside my card. And as you can see, this runs down, okay? So I'm running this, and whatever income I have that is cash flow to me then works down this card. Now, here's what's so beautiful about that. Now, this is not sitting, that $200 is not sitting in my checking account tempting me, right? It's going to work for me. Every penny that I make then is going to work for me. My cash flow is going to work for me. The cash flow that is released back to me is going to work for me to help me work down this card. And so if I have a month where my expenses do exceed what they should be, right? So maybe I have to, I don't know, I have a big dental bill, or I have to purchase tires for my car, or my daughter has a riding event of some sort and I have to spend $500 on it. I don't know, right? So we have life us, it happens. So anyway, so when that happens, you might have a month where one of these ticks up a little bit higher. But that is also the beauty of velocity banking, because you have a place to go for that cash, and it is sitting in that available balance on that credit card. And as you work your card down, more and more and more becomes available to you, doesn't it? So this is what I call the debt freedom graph. And the debt freedom graph is a very good pictorial view of what is happening when we do velocity banking. So now that I've explained a little bit about what happens inside these cards, let's go and look at this student scenario. So this student scenario is a student scenario that is very near and dear to me. It is a very personal story because these students here are Jen and Dan. So I wanted to show you what happened to us years ago so you can see. Now, this is a piece of our pie. It is not the entire picture because we had other things going on in other businesses and other business expenses as well. But I want to show you a snapshot of part of what we were dealing with, okay? So let's take a look at it, and then I'm going to work it down for you and show you exactly what we did. So here we start with an income of $10,500 and a total expenses of $9,182, which means the cash flow at the time for this particular part of our expenses was $1,318. So all you business owners out there, you probably have a really good idea of what I mean, because there's different buckets that we have things in as business owners, right? And so this was a part of it, and we still had other things going on. So we very much understand business owners as well as everybody else, right? Because we both worked for corporate America before we became business owners. So we have both pieces, right, that we can pull together. So the mortgage payment was $1,856, so $1,856. Our American Express at the time was $50,000. And I did round numbers here for you guys because, again, that was a long time ago. And I just remember, what the dollar amounts were in terms of the tens. So I kind of brought that. Now, some of them I remember a little bit better, such as the 2 cube vans. Okay. So anyway, so American Express is $50,000, $1,458, 23% interest rate, 4.5 years to term that out at the time, and we would be spending $32,225. This is a Chase card here at $32,000, okay? And so the payment on that was $640, and it was at a 22% interest rate, 11.5 years to term that out at $55,539 if we continued to pay the minimum balance on that, or the minimum payment, on that, as we were at the time, because we were shoving money in other places, right? We had money going to other things, all right? So this cash flow was cash flow, but it was paying other things out, okay, other debts. So then we had an ink card here at $23,460 was the payment on that, 25% interest rate, 5.7 years, $19,868 to pay that back. Oh my gosh, right? Bank of America, $12,340 payment, 22%, 4.10 years, $7,490 to term that out. Amazon card, my favorite card, I love it, sorry. Okay, $13,346, 20% interest, 5 years on that, 75.70. Now, we also have a cube van. All right, so we had a cube van here. And I forgot to show you guys what this ended up at, okay? What this would end up at when I termed that out. So I am so sorry I forgot to do that. So let's pause for a second and let's show you. All right, so when you Velocity Bank, right, and doing it the way that we ran it with just this card with this, made up income, okay? So what does it look like? Well, to do this, right, to do it the Velocity Banking style, getting this back to us, all right, it takes 26 months and $3,036 in interest, okay? Versus, remember, here's our Amazon card. It would have taken $7,570 over 5 years to pay it off. But doing it and running it the Velocity Banking way, look at, we've halved that, haven't we? Okay, so less than half we've paid in 26 months worth of time. And the other thing with that is too, we're paying $194, $188, $182. This interest is stepping down at the same time, right? Now, we have only gotten back this amount in our interest, right? At the time we got that back to us, not interest, but this payment came back to us. And out of that, you're still spending interest, right? So you did pretty well running Velocity Banking with just one card, okay? So if that's all you had to work with and you have a lower income, you guys can do this and you guys can save yourself a heck of a lot of money very, very quickly just by running it this way, all right? So, okay, sorry about that. I didn't mean to forget that here, but I did. Now, so we had a cube van, all right? So we had a cube van here. Actually, we had 2 cube vans. And we had cube van 1 for $51,600. The payment was $713, 5.2% over 6 years, $8,992 to term that out. Okay, cube van 2, $34,615, 4.5%, 6 years. Okay, and to term that out, it would be $3,913. So what was the total debt on this section of our businesses, right, in our finances? So $215,600 in debt. Okay, so that's the debts. We're not even talking mortgage here, are we? And we had $45.72 in payments. Okay, so that's just the debt payments on this. And then $135,597 in interest that we would be paying out. Okay, so needless to say, we were pretty stressed, right? So we were pretty stressed at the time. We had all this money that we owed, and we weren't sure, how we were going to get out of it or what we were going to do. Now, the businesses were growing, but they were growing slowly. Okay. So they were growing slowly at the time. So we still owed a lot of money. Now, we did end up selling one of those businesses. So part of the reason I don't have all of this on here is because we did take some care of some of these debts separately. So the debts that we took care of, the cube van, okay, so we ended up buying these outright, okay? So with the sale of one of our businesses, we did buy some of this out. That's where I'm telling you guys, we wanted to hold on to our money. Remember, I told you guys that about, filing for bankruptcy, or not. We didn't file for bankruptcy. We almost did, but we thought maybe we could hang on to some of our cash, and you can't always. And this is the case. You can't always do that. So we did end up purchasing these, okay? So what I'm going to show you is what we did with the rest of these debts, okay? And that's what I'm going to run for you. And we did it through a credit card. And I've talked to you guys about this one in particular before. It's a very specialized credit card. It is the 𝐓𝐇𝐈𝐒 card. And by the way, I'm not a spokesperson in any way for 𝐓𝐶, but we did use the card and I find it pretty amazing. So let me show you the rundown on what things looked like for us once we threw them all into a card and started running them down through Velocity Banking, okay? And through this method, the pay down way. Now, it was just a credit card, okay? So even though it's a hybrid home equity hybrid credit card, I'll explain why we did that. Number one, we were self-employed, okay? So we were self-employed and at the time I didn't have all of the income from, when I left work and started running my own businesses, I couldn't prove that income. So we couldn't get a home equity. We already had one, okay? So I didn't realize that at the time, but we did actually already have one. But I thought we couldn't get one anyway because we didn't have the history there for employment, okay? So that would have caused us a problem. And all of you business owners know out there, you don't ever want to show a profit if you can avoid it. So you work things a certain way so you don't. Well, that goes against you whenever you're trying to get financing, okay? So we know you're between a rock and a hard place. So I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to get rid of all this on the board. I'm going to show you pretty quickly because I don't want to take up too much of your time today, but I'm going to show you what we did and what that looked like for us through Velocity Banking. So give me about a second. Okay, so I told you guys that I would be back in about a second. So here I am, back in about a second. And so I wanted to run some numbers down for you and show you what we did. So now, again, we had other things happen and we did sell some things. So, and we also sold one business. So we did pay down. Okay, so we paid this off and we ended up paying these two off. But what we had done is we took these and we put them on the 𝐓𝐶 card. Okay, so we did put that on the 𝐓𝐶 card, and that is what you see over here. Okay, and so the 𝐓𝐶 card is at a 4%. Okay, so it was 4% to do the balance transfer on that, which cost us $3,200 in fees, right? So there were our balance transfer fees. Okay, so taking these debts here, roll them together, put them over here, all right? So remember, when we're running Velocity Banking, we take our balances. What makes it work and what makes it work so well is the average daily balance, right? So the average daily balance, when you put your income in and it significantly drops your balances. So you can see I went from 83,200, 8,600 goes in because we had to hold out the mortgage, okay? And so basically everything we did was chargeable. So we put all of our chargeable expenses that we had at the time into it. So we were throwing those all in, okay? And we were able to, except for the mortgage. So we had 74,556 is what it drops to, right? So you have your high balance here, you have your low balance here. $8,600 or $8,644 of income went into the line. We have expenses of $73.26. Okay, so $73.26 was the expenses. And then our interest was $854. Okay, and this was that starting month. So if you're going to calculate this, right? So when you want to calculate it for yourself to figure out where you're going to be and when you want to run things down, like I have on my schedule here, when you want to run that down, you're going to average your high balance and your low balance. So you're going to add them together. You're going to divide by 2. And that's going to give you the average, okay? You take that then and you're going to multiply it by the 13%, which 13% was the 𝐓𝐶 card, okay? So it was 0.13. So you're going to divide it by that. You're going to add it, divide by 2. You're going to get your year's worth of interest. Then you're going to multiply by the 0.13, and then you're going to divide that then by 12, because you only want 1 month of interest. And so if I can find what I do with my calculator. All right, so let's just do it. Ready? So if we take 83,200, and we add it to 74,556, that's going to equal 157,756. Divide that by 2, which gives us 78,878. We're going to multiply that by 0.13, which gives us 10,254, and then we're dividing that by 12, which gives us the 854. Okay, so that's the 854. All right, so that's how you're going to calculate your interest then every month that you're running this down, so you have an idea of where you're going to land at the end of this. Okay, so if we continue to run this down each month, you'll see that we start with the 83,200. Income comes in, our expenses come out or back onto the card, our interest comes out or back onto the card, and we're down to 82,736. Okay, so that's what we end up with, is 82,736 in doing our checks, right? Because we always want to do our checks. Is that higher or lower than the 83,200? Well, it's lower, right? So we're moving in the right direction. Same thing again, 8644 comes in, drops us to 74,092. Our expenses come back into the card. Our interest comes back onto the card, and we're back to 82,267. Is that higher or lower than the 82,736? Now, here is where I'm going to show you what, if we left it on this schedule, okay, and we did some other things, and we actually did make another chunk deposit, or payment, I should say, not deposit, another chunk payment down on it, which pretty much wiped it out, okay? But it took a few years, about 1.5 years before we were able to do that, because we sold a vehicle that we didn't need, slapped it right down on that, okay? Again, when you guys are looking at your savings account, make your savings go to work for you. If you're not comfortable doing that, that is okay. Remember, we give you choices, right? There are choices to make here. And I would rather personally see my savings go to work for me to pay down a higher interest rate that I'm going to earn when it sits in a savings account. So that's why we ended up slapping down again on this. But let's just say we let it term out. What would it look like? Okay, so what would this look like? Now, if we let this run out, okay, it would have been here. So if we let this go, so it would have taken months to pay off, would have been 94 months, okay? Now, 94, so that's 7.8 years, all right? And it would have cost in interest, all right, to do this, 48,794. Now, here's what I'm going to say, because you guys are probably looking at that going, yeah, but the 7 years is a lot longer than this over here. Well, it's not longer than this now, is it? It's not. And this is 55,539. We paid total, or would have paid total, 48,000 in interest. We would have paid total over here 539, right? Okay. So here's the thing, right? So it took 7.8 years. We still spent a heck of a lot less than we would to term all of that out, okay? That is the traditional banking right here. That is what traditional banking does. It holds you down. When you learn velocity banking, when you run your banking and do it through lines of credit, helping to work your balances down, you will save a lot of money. Now, this wouldn't have saved us a whole lot of time, right? A little bit versus the Chase card there, right? That would have done that. However, that's where you guys, if you have other options and you can take things like a little bit of savings, or if you have an extra job that you want to throw money at it, you're going to work it down a whole heck of a lot faster, okay? So we didn't spend anywhere near this, right? Because we did make a chunk deposit onto that. But I wanted to show you, again, how velocity banking runs. And it doesn't matter what your income is, okay? You can see this is lower income here. This is a little bit higher income here. At the end of the day, you guys, we're all feeling the same way, right? We all feel the same way when you're pinched and you're strapped. We don't get out of life alive, do we? And I know that. and you know that. So do yourself a favor and get yourself out of debt today. Do it a different way. Stop banking traditionally. Start doing it through the Velocity Banking way. We have a million videos for you. Okay, not a million, maybe 100. Anyway, we have a lot of videos for you to watch, to learn how to do this banking, to learn to do your banking a different way. If you guys would like some help, if you guys want our worksheets, even if you just want our worksheets to help organize your debts, absolutely. Shoot us a quick email. We are at info@paydowndebtsolutions.com. And we will send you worksheets without a question. If you guys want us to work a plan for you, we will do that too for you as well. And I'll tell you what, you don't need any of that fancy software. You don't need any of that stuff, you guys. All you need is what's up here, and you can save yourself a heck of a lot of money for nothing, right? For nothing. Have a great day, you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good one.